Looks like we've got first. Oh, come back in. Dang it. Looks like we had someone, but didn't happen. Give me. I don't like having other things open like Skype or Gmail just because if someone does a chat, then it makes a beeping noise, which could be distractive. Now, in the description box below, if you guys are watching through YouTube or Vimm, you'll have a description box area, and within there you can go ahead and click on the Zoom link. That Zoom link will go ahead and allow you to join the Zoom. Hi Paul, how's it going?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Can you see me? Oh, I don't have, I guess how does the camera work?
On the bottom left, are you using your phone actually, or are you using a PC?
I'm using a Chromebook.
Okay, so it'll.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Hey, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Yeah, nice seeing you. Oh, we got iPhone SE. I don't know who iPhone SE is. iPhone SE. Do you have a name? Hello? Let me know when you figure out your All right. There's another iPhone SE.
I jumped off and then on the show, on Nathan's show, I jumped off and then I got messages saying everybody got sniped. I wonder if me jumping off sniped everybody.
No, I think it either we all got sniped, but I think maybe the show just ended.
Well, normally Nathan doesn't cut anything off. He lets everything keep going.
Oh, okay. Then maybe we all got sniped. Hi.
Yeah, we all got sniped.
Okay. Who is the iPhone SE? I just want to put a name to it.
Hey, it's Flat Earth.
Okay. Hi. I'll just go ahead and change the name. Now, what I like to talk about is something that we wouldn't normally talk about, and at least it wouldn't be aired in Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debates channel, and it doesn't seem fair to just use his hangout to just and his live stream to talk about things outside of Flat Earth. Of course, we could talk about Flat Earth because once we get to Flat Earth, if some people want to think about, well, if it's not the way it's described in the evolutionary model, the globe Earth model, and everything else, is what is it? We're gonna have to start from scratch. Is it the creationist model through different types of ancient mythology or biblical texts, or even some of the older texts out there, like the Nag Hammadi, or maybe even a Taoist approach, or other types of mythological sources? But the thing is, mythological sources at one point were religions, were the ideas of how things started, whether it's through parables or I forgot what that term was. You know, when it's allegories and things like that. So, your thoughts? Do you want to get started, Paul, or Flat Earth?
I know Flat Earth and me kind of have a different opposing views. I do believe in a creation event, by an intelligent agent. And I think even when I've looked at a little bit, even Egyptian mythology, it seemed to be echo in some. Whoops, sorry, my little one's decided to play with the mouse. Seems to line up even with the biblical account. So, and I'm not sure. I've not read any other ones, so I'm not really can't comment on the other ones. But there seems to be some commonality in some of them. That there was some kind of divine event or divine person creating the world.
Yeah. Whenever I look through all the different mythologies, and the thing is, all the ancient civilizations that were given through history, state that these civilizations existed thousands of years ago apart from each other before they even knew that the other civilizations existed, and they weren't. I mean, the assumption is, and based off of sorry, that Skype thing distracted me. Based off of the written history, the historical accounts, that the Maya didn't really have interaction with the Egyptians. Now, some archaeologists are stating that there were some, I'm gonna have to quit that Skype. Give me a second here. Let's see.
Doing me the same way.
All right.
Sorry, this Zoom thing is new to me, and I think it's pretty cool, so I wanted to share it with everybody.
Sure, no problem. There is a free version, which is free. I think there are limitations, but I paid into this a long time ago and just renewed it. So I like it. It's a lot better than Hangouts. We could share screen, pretty much the same thing. We could change the way that the view works. Like, I like to share everything and everyone in one screen, but you can change it yourself, so you could just, it only shows who's speaking. And if you're on a computer, it's on the top right speaker view.
Yeah, sorry.
And anyways, as I was going on with the coincidences of all the ancient civilizations, is just that they can even come up with the solar calendar system. The solar calendar system. I mean, like the Mayans did like 6,000 years ago. The Egyptians did like 4,000 to 6,000 years ago. 365 days a year in the solar calendar is, and that's without the assumption that, I mean, why wouldn't they start off with the assumption that the solar year would be 360 days, a full perfect circle? I think all of the civilizations who studied astronomy and math, they understood circle was 360 degrees. So where did that extra 5 days come from? But then their description of where the extra 5 days come from differ in some ways. Like the Mayans say the 5 days came from, they're just unlucky days that occurred. And the Egyptians, well, there's a story about Thoth, which is kind of a deity, and that he had a wager because I think it was Osiris didn't want any kids becoming more powerful than himself. So I think the one who was pregnant, I forget the deity's name, wasn't allowed to give birth. So in order to help, Thoth would make a wager with some other deity, and I think it was the moon, and if the moon won, or whoever, if Thoth won, it would take 1 out of 72 of the moon's light, and he gave that to the deity that was giving birth, and the deity gave birth to 5 children. And therefore, the 5 new days were attributed to those children. So you got 365 days in the solar year, and it's just. But the thing is the elliptical orbit, that theory or that acceptance didn't occur until Johannes Kepler, which is sometime in the 1600s. So all this time, no one wondered why there's 365 days in a year and not 360. Same thing with the lunar calendar, which is usually like 6 days, around 6 days less than 360 days, whatever. Hi, Erwin, how's it going? If you don't want to use your camera, you can just shut the camera off.
Yo.
That too, Paul. Hey, Erwin.
Hi. Mirror image. Yeah.
You can choose your view to be different as well. You could choose the view. I think if you're just showing yourself, you could see all of us, or just the speaker view. I'm not sure if you're using.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've used this before.
Okay.
So GTI meetings. So is this recording or anything, or?
Yeah, just on my live streams.
Right.
Looks like no one's really joining chat, or at least no one's saying anything. But it's live streamed on DLive, which is based off of oh wow, why am I forgetting so many things? Which is based off of cryptocurrency and the blockchain is what I meant. And same thing with Vimm.tv, which is in the alpha stage because DLive left Steemit to go to a different blockchain. And so so 2 blockchains I'm live streaming. The problem is you can't upload to these platforms yet. It's only based off of live streaming. And then of course there's Periscope and YouTube. And Restream.com ended up Restream.me got taken down. So you can't even live stream there anymore. I don't know the reasons behind it. The rumor is that someone doxed the founders of Restream.me, and so they stopped everything or something.
Really?
Yeah,
They wanted to keep their anonymity.
I think so.
Right. Too many trolls.
Yeah. So Arwen, apologies yesterday. I want to say the same thing to the one. I mean, I wasn't trying to be, or was it Jose? Is it the one Jose, or is it that? Those are different people, right? Yeah, those are different people. So yesterday we were talking about God and, you know, more stuff than the usual flat earth stuff, but I didn't I asked a lot of questions. It's not meant to be like
personal.
Yeah, it's not personal, it's not an attack. I want to know more, but then I have questions. It's like it doesn't make sense to me. It's just like if I was questioning anything else.
Right.
It's like,
well, the problem really is that the tension rose too high, and then people kept doubling down on that shit, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. And that's pretty much how it derailed the whole thing. I don't even remember what it was about really anymore, but it was messy anyway.
Yeah. So, and that's why I don't like about Google Hangouts. There's just a slight delay. So when there's an empty, you know, a quiet moment, someone goes in and there's that slight delay. What I like about this Hangout is you can start saying something, and plus we're visual. We see each other, so we know when we stop talking. It's like someone could pick up right away.
Right. Well, that's optional with Google Hangouts as well. So you can turn the camera on. It's just Nathan is not really on the Hangouts, but using it as a subsystem. So you don't get to see him. But other than that, yeah, that's Google works the same. But I do find Zoom very smooth.
Yeah.
From what I've experienced.
Yeah, it was really easy. I didn't even have to download. I downloaded the app onto the Chrome add-on, and it worked fairly well.
Yeah. I like it. I've been using it for a while. I've seen a lot more people using Zoom as a Hangouts for live streaming and interviews and things like that. So you and me, Paul, were talking. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before, but just the idea of let's talk about the creation story of different accounts. And there's the Christian one, the biblical one, and go from there. Because also what I noticed is 72 is a big number, not just in the creation myth, but of the calendar usage, at least the solar calendar.
Yeah, I've not done a whole lot on that side of things. When I first started looking into all this stuff, and I looked at the Nephilim, that's why that number came up when I was looking at the Nephilim in Scripture. And I just thought it was kind of interesting, you know, like there might have been 72 sons of God that came down to rule the world, or rule the nations. And there was 72 language after the Tower of Babel or something like that. Mm-hmm. I just thought that was interesting. Now, I have seen that, you know, I've seen the number seems to be significant. I've not looked into the calendar aspect of it very much, so you probably know a lot more about it than I do on that side. But I have seen that a lot of the creation accounts and even a flood account, a lot of nations have a flood account, you know, some kind, like a massive flood that wiped out the world. Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of interesting too. So I mean, I've not done a whole lot of study on it, but it's kind of interesting and fascinating. So from that side of things.
Yeah, and out of everything, actually, let me try to find that article or just the actually we don't even need an article. It's just in religion. I'll just go ahead and show it because I can't share on the same screen that I'm live streaming on with the Zoom. I could share it so people can see it, so I'll do that at least. But here's what I like to point out, and this is, you can even look it up in Wikipedia. 72 number. If you go down to the in religion part, is, you just said it, the number of languages spoken at the Tower of Babylon. It's 72. The conventional number of scholars translating the Septuagint. I don't know exactly what that is. The conventional number of disciples sent forth by Jesus in Luke 10 in some manuscripts, 70 in others. The number of names of God according to Kabbalah, the Semhamparash, related to the number of names of God. The total number of books in the Bible in the Catholic version, if the Book of Lamentations is considered part of the Book of Jeremiah. The current distribution of the Book of Revelations is 22 chapters, adopted since the 13th century, but the oldest division of the text is that the Greek commentator Andrew of Caesarea, 6th century, in 72 chapters. The number of people martyred along with Imam Hussein at the Battle of Karbala. The number of Auri each Muslim martyr or every Muslim male according to a hadith shall receive as companions in paradise. Oh, it's that, like the 72 virgins that you hear about in the news. The degrees of Jacob's ladder were to the number of 72 according to the Zohar. The 72 disciples of Confucius who mastered his teachings, also given as 77. Mahavira, the 24th and last Tirthankara of Jainism, is said to have attained nirvana after his physical death at the age of 72. The Thoth, in an Egyptian creation myth, wins the 72nd of each day of the year from the moon in a game of draughts as a favor to Nut, the sky goddess. He uses these portions to make the 5 intercalary days on which the remaining gods and goddesses are born. The god Osiris was enclosed in a coffin by 72 disciples and accomplices of Set. At the age of puberty, the young Parsi received the investiture, the sacred cord kukti made of 72 linens and symbol of the community. And Cow Dai, I don't know what that is. The number of planets between hell and heaven. There are 72 stupas, which comprise Borobudur, the world's largest Buddhist temple. 72 major temples have been found at Angkor, seat of the ancient Khmer Empire. In Islam, 72 is the number of sects or denominations that are doomed to hell according to Hadith, sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, and the number of demons sealed away by King Solomon with the Lesser Key of Solomon. I mean, it seems to be pervasive throughout all these different types of religions. And
Okay, so what is the actual significance of it? Because there's a lot of numbers. Number 12, you know, is everywhere as well, and pretty much in the same order, and there's all kinds of numbers. So why 72?
I don't know about the Y 72, but it's just
Is there
documented.
Is there some kind of fractal nature to it, or?
I don't know. Also in the Nag Hammadi, there's 72 total, I don't know what they call them, archangels or something like that, based off of the archons. So I want to boil that down. I have that written somewhere, but
Yeah, it keeps on coming back.
yeah, it just keeps on coming back to number
Through
72.
the creations, the numerology, they put it in there, so for some reason.
Yeah,
So yeah, what is that reason then?
I don't know. I mean, if you think about it in just the math sense, with the way that the
Right. Or geometrical. What can you deduce from it geometrically?
well, if you
Is there some kind of 3D type of special shape that has 72 points,
Well,
for example?
if you've got a full circle, which is 360 degrees, and if you divide that by 72, you get 5.
Yeah, but listen, 360 degrees, that's a man-made decision.
Yeah, and same thing with whatever that they're mentioning in just the man-made texts. Or
Right, but geometrical shapes, you can't determine that. It has an exact amount of elements to it. I'm sorry. So that's why you can't say, okay, degrees is a spectrum. It's all a matter of choice, just like the distance, a meter or a foot. But numbers, geometrical points on a specific type of shape, that's very specific every time.
Yeah.
So is there any kind of 3D special shape that has 72 points, for example?
I don't know. I guess we could look it up. But as far as, I mean, geometry, 2 dimensions are used, just like a square, a circle, a triangle. So I don't see why those can't be used in math. Those are used in math all the time. It's trigonometry. So
What? No, but I'm just trying to deduce some significance to the the specificness of 72.
yeah,
And I've seen that people do that with geometry a lot.
Yeah,
So
I'm just
that
and I'm
to my
stating
satisfaction.
and I'm just stating one of the significances, which is if you
Right.
divide 72 from 360, you get 5, and if you use that 5 and add it to the 360, you get the 365, which is where the Mayans and the ancient Egyptians got the number of days in the solar calendar. I mean, does that seem odd that 2
Seems
different
a little
civilizations would get
far-fetched.
365 days?
I don't know. Seems a little far fetched, but
I mean,
who
it's
knows?
written wherever you look for it, the mainstream sources. Just where how many days are in the solar calendar? You look it up for the Mayans, it's there, and you look for the Egyptians. How many dates did they have for the solar calendar? It's there.
No, I get that, but the bridge, laying that bridge to the 72, that was like one step too far, in my opinion. I wouldn't draw that conclusion necessarily. You
Well,
have to add up stuff, no? But
it just because if you get 365 divided by 72, it's not going to be a whole number. You'd have to divide by 73, and then you get 5. So
I'm gonna look it up.
Yep.
Google.
And then, Paul, we were mentioning about the 72. If it was based off of some deities that were sent or created, whether those deities are good or bad, or does it even matter? What are your thoughts?
Well, they were, according to biblical writings, God had rejected the nations because of what they did at the Tower of Babel. And if you look at the extra biblical sources, there's a lot that they were going to do. The nations, at the Tower of Babel, they were going to try to invade heaven, kill God, and put their own gods up there. And so God got pissed off and said, enough's enough. So I'm not going to have a relationship with you anymore. And he said, I'm going to send these 72 angels down, and they're going to rule over you, and they're going to be the ones you're going to worship. And of course, then they rebelled. Then those 72 angels rebelled against God and started receiving that worship themselves instead of sending that worship to God. They worshiped upon themselves. And then you can see there's other biblical writings that talk about how God began to judge them for that and the wrong judgment or the wrong ruling of the nations. So, and I've thought that there may be some significance and some connection. I think Erwin's kind of on, like, it's kind of all speculation, but the 72, I don't know. I mean, why is it so cross-cultural? I was just looking up geometry too, just to see if there's any geometric connections.
Can't
that
find
I didn't
anything
see
specific. It's you can have a 72-sided shape that's like really complex type of words. Heptacontacaidigon.
Yeah.
Weird. It's not a regular shape, so nothing really popped into view right away.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm just wondering. Have you looked into Nassim Harameyn's work?
No, I haven't. I think he gave a link, and I haven't watched it.
Very early on. Also, some globe geometry stuff with that, and ancient history, Egyptians. But what he did was basically try to decipher patterns with the numbers in all kinds of writings, in biblical writing all over the place.
Gematria, then?
No, not necessarily. No, not that way. Just looking for numbers, and he manufactured like he was a theoretical physicist. He still is, There's a whole kind of project that rolled out of what he did. So such 2001. It's like so long ago, but yeah, he deduced through geometry incredible things. That are basically. You gotta see his work, Nassim Haramein. Let me see if I.
One person who does that too that I watch is Marty Leeds. Have you ever watched any of his work?
Maybe.
Okay, it's
Yeah, I've watched Marty. The only thing I've been thinking about Marty over the while with his what he does, and the numbers he uses within the math system. If you kind of think about it over a while, I mean, there could be a pattern that just emerges because of the system he's using. So I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know. It's just a question. I don't know. I mean, it could be he's based on the English system, based on the Hebraic system. It just seems like sometimes you can, if you limit your usage, limit your numbers, you can create patterns that will form. I mean, I could be wrong in that, but that's just the thought I had about it when I would watch Marty. So, but I've not done enough in-depth research to be able to say either way.
What's interesting about that side of the biblical story with the 72 angels sent forth from God to take over, and then they rebelled against him. The Nag Hammadi has it slightly different, that the archons that were created from the mother Sophia, that their powers that they created, and it multiplied into 365, and I don't know if that's significant with 72. They haven't really done the math quite right from the source that I read, so I have to look more into that. But it always seems to be that whatever creation story it is, there's always a rebellion. There's always something where they're rebelling from whatever it is that they were created from. I wonder if that's
I think that's the thing. When I look at the creation stories and these creation accounts, and like I start looking at like the Nephilim and all that stuff, and I'm starting to try to see if there's a pattern from culture to culture to culture, and there does seem to be a pattern. Like even in Greek mythology, the word, the Titans or the gods rebelled against the Titans, or Titans, battled against the Titans and all this stuff. And the biblical word that is used for hell in the New Testament is Tartarus, and that's where the Titans were put after the rebellion. And that's connected to what happened in Genesis 6 with the sons of God and what they did. They rebelled against God, and they did what they weren't supposed to do. And then God says, okay, because of what you've done, I'm going to put you in a prison and lock you away. And it's just like I see that kind of pattern. And I think sometimes you get so far removed back from the original events that it gets polluted and it gets changed and it gets twisted around. So you kind of start saying, well, how can you discern what the final picture would look like if all these events were occurring? Something I even came across, there's a guy, you can probably find on YouTube, but he actually uses the Chinese language and and deciphers the creation event from the language. And he can show like
I saw the same video.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I thought, so you think, and he traces it all the way back out, almost 2,000 or 3,000 years ago, that, from the language, and that would coincide with those events. And even a lot of those events seem to be lined up within the Chinese language. And I thought, all this seems to be pointing to some kind of past event, and something happening in the past. And the stories got changed and, twisted around and, throughout time. And, but the trace element is still there, so to speak,
Yeah. I think it was like evidence of Christianity within like the Chinese writing or something like that. I want to look it up because that was pretty good. And that's why when I have to use I have to use a story, because it's similar to Nag Hammadi and possibly the Tao, and somewhat similar to the Bible, probably, but not quite. So just like how you're saying that the angels sent forth by by God in the biblical Christianity, that they rebelled against God, and they wanted to become their own gods. And I think that's where a lot of the current paganism, the current Satanism, Luciferianism, whatever it is, they want to become gods apart from God and its God's essence. And then there's the typical maybe Abrahamic religious sense where that there's only one God, you can't become a god, and only God can save you, and a lot of that. But then there's a lot of the old age, which is kind of like a renewal of a new age, is we have God as a part of us. We obtained the essence of God, and if we strive to, we can become God, like God, or be a part of God. Just like going to heaven is kind of like the same concept, but there's a lot of stuff that we need to do in order to get there. And I use the analogy as, well, when we have kids that want to become their own individuals. They want, if you have a son, you want your son to become a man. If you have a daughter, to become a woman, be able to live on their own and have a family of their own, and things like that. So I have a feeling whoever created humans, or whoever gave us the essence of God, to one day become like a child becoming a man, a man becoming a god, not necessarily like the creator and all that, but that we can become what God wants us to be in a way, right? So
become greater than ourselves.
Yes.
Well, there's a term, there's a theological term. There's non-communicable attributes and there's communicable attributes, right? And the communicable attributes would be something like God loves, God is love, so we can communicate, we can be that way. The non-communicable attributes would be like God is infinite, or God is eternal, God is all-knowing. There's certain things that we can't be, and I think learning to touch on, like, we need to be more like God, but not be God, because we can't be. We'd be more like Him, which means we'd be more reflecting of His attributes that are something we can do, like love and compassion and mercy and that kind of thing. That's the way I kind of look at it. That's why I do have a problem with us, the universe being God, because that there's some logical inconsistencies that starts to break down. That's what I was going to bring up. Why? Like, is there evil in the world? I'm asking a question. Is there evil?
It's a part of the spectrum of what is.
Okay, that doesn't answer the question. You said it's a spectrum. Is there evil? There's evil. Yes. Is either. Okay, how do you determine that it's evil?
It's a matter of perspective, though. But yes.
How do you determine what's evil? Or what standard do you use to judge it? What's that?
You sense it. You have senses for it.
Senses for it. Like, give me an example.
Well, a generally innocent person, if they see something really like a vile crime or a murder or something, it's gonna shock them, even if they don't understand what's happening, because their natural senses tell them this is bad. They'll never naturally trust that person that did that.
Can a violent act have good attached to it?
Not necessarily, no.
So if you see if I see someone beating my daughter and I go and beat the crap out of him, which act was worse?
Something else. Then you're defending somebody, and people pick up on that intuitively.
So you're saying there's something intuitive that you're trying to pick up on. So you're trying to pick up on some kind of standard to determine which violent act was correct or not.
If somebody walks into a situation where somebody else is beating up somebody else, they don't know the context of it. That's right.
So there has to be something that's beyond the violent act that's determining whether it's correct, right, good or not, right?
Well, the perpetrator knows, and usually the victim knows.
What about the person that's looking and seeing what's going on? How does he determine that?
Based on his own senses.
Yeah, but you're just seeing a violent act occurring.
Sorry?
You're just seeing a violent act occurring.
Yeah. But it all
So
depends. If you're a video game ass that's playing shooters all day, simulated murders, then there's very likelihood that you don't have any response at all. You're just apathic to it. But that's
Well,
because you're doing crazy stuff to yourself to diminish your own senses in that regard.
well, I mean, but let's go ahead. Go ahead.
Before we go on, maybe it makes sense to kind of approach, because sometimes someone's morality may be attached to someone's belief or non-belief or whatever it is. Just like what, for me, I ascribe myself as an agnostic, but that doesn't mean I don't obtain wisdom through different spiritual
Yeah, it
or
does.
religious
It means you're
texts.
stupid.
So, I mean, what do you guys consider yourselves as far as spiritually or religiously? For people who don't know.
Well, for me, obviously, I'm a Christian. I've said that before on the other show, but I'll say it here officially. So I'm not agnostic, and I'm not an atheist. I believe in God.
Is there a specific denomination of Christianity that you ascribe to?
No, not really. I had that question asked to me yesterday. I was like, I don't really. I believe that Jesus was who he says he was. I believe in that the Bible reveals the nature of who God is. I can go to any church depending on whatever I feel like I need to go. So I don't really kind of pin myself into any specific denomination. And I try, I don't like doing that myself. So if you ask me what I am, I say I'm a mutt. I'm a little bit of everything. So because I see benefit, I can see benefit in all of them if I step back and take a look. And a lot of times, most of the time, most denominations occur from some level of disagreement. You know what I mean? And we don't agree on this one specific topic, so we're going to create this denomination to be separate from some everybody else. There's some things that I call essential, and some things that are not essential. And most denominations fall into what things that are not essential, like God exists. That's an essential doctrine. Jesus is who he says he was. That's an essential doctrine. But there's so many other things that are that are what do you call it? Just peripheral, that are not really not necessary. It's kind of like the flat. What's that?
Peripheral.
Right. So.
And Arwen, what about you? Do you have
me?
Yeah.
I'm a wizard and an elf. Just kidding. Yeah. Or am I? No, I'm a well-traveled, spiritually traveled person in many contexts, and I've been all over the place. But fundamentally, I am sort of an eclectic Christian. And that means I don't accept any doctrine, including the Bible, but as a doctrine. But what I do is I read things on their essence. As I read people and size up how much I can trust of them, so do I with any text. And in that way I can determine what about this book is glorious, what is pure, what is very narrow to the path, and what is just crazy politicization or made up stuff. I feel it out, and I do that with everything. And you can find glorious wisdom and godliness in a lot of writings all over the world.
Which writings do you like that you find wisdom in?
Well, I don't generally read so much, to be fair, but I do hear out a lot of people a lot. I've talked to Christians, to Mormons, to Buddhists. My dad has studied a lot in that regard. So did my mother, and we were always talking about either spiritual stuff, philosophical stuff, or language-related things. And so I got a peek at it all very early on, and it was just too complicated, all of it. to just say, okay, no, this is the right religion and the rest must be wrong, when they have good things that resonate even with the good things of Christianity. So yeah, I became an eclectic. But as for a more personal discipline, I really do follow like the path of Christ. It's very much focused on seduction, and just trying to do the right thing in every circumstance, every single one. And that's really tough, to be fair.
Now,
But I got used to it.
now, are your behaviors dictated by your belief in Jesus Christ and God, or is it
The principles.
Separate.
It's all about the principles and how narrow you stick to them. So if you're going to talk the truth, or if you're going to be open and honest about yourself, how far will you go? And yeah, how do you respond to bad behavior from other people? It's very, everything I do, I try to tie in with it, basically. So it's kind of semi-religious experience just existing in that sense.
I know you want to talk to Flat Earth, but I do want to come back to something everyone said. So once you do that, if I have time, I'd like to come back. So,
all right. Flat Earth, are you there?
Hey, yeah. So I'm an atheist, and so in the beginning of the conversation, you were trying to figure out why all these different ideas have the number 72, and the obvious answer to me was that the reason is that all of these things to deceive us have been written by the same people that are in control of us. So is that not the answer?
What would be the reason for them to reveal the reason why they're deceiving us?
Well, shouldn't we be able to figure it out ourselves? The number must come from something. You know, you can assume that it's all written by a singular party that is mischievous, or you could just figure out why 72.
So let's talk about the deceivers, Flat Earth. Do the deceivers believe in something? Or are they atheists too?
I don't know. I mean, it was just by going by what you were saying. You were talking about the number 72 and how it all correlates.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, because like if you have something written that is older, I forgot what your examples were, but like the 72 versions of virgins in Islam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whoever would have written that would have gotten it from something they believe that's earlier that has 72 books or whatever, and that may be the only link, but that is how they personalize it for themselves. Kind of like today, astrologists, astronomists, they name stars after their kids, even though clearly everybody knows stars are not what they're saying, but they discover these things and they just give it their names to give it their own personalization so they can live on.
I see. That makes sense. It's very similar to Taoism in a way, because the statues are representatives of a specific energy form, whatever it is. It's Taoism is weird. They use the statue of the person who's the representative, the one that was gained the wisdom of this entity, and therefore when people worship or ask things from this entity, they're basically having that statue of the person, and what they use is the name of that person to ascribe that wisdom energy entity non-form.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that's absolutely genius. That would work.
Yeah, so you might want to look into Taoism. I think you might like that one.
I have heard of it before, and I remember liking it, even though it was like 20 years ago. But yeah, Taoism has very interesting aspects to it.
Because okay, sorry, go ahead.
No.
I most recently heard about Taoism from you, Ebon, on the Flat Earth debate. And so I came over to your channel and I saw that you were going to be talking about it, but I still don't understand what it is. So obviously it's going to take some time, but it sounds interesting. It really does.
Yeah, it's like when I looked into it, and it was probably in my teens, I think 16, when I was 16, and I read it again when I was in my 20s, early 20s. I didn't get it because I was just reading through a whole bunch of things trying to see if I could find a religion for myself because I felt like I want to be accepted in some type of community and whatnot, and then I couldn't find anything. And so
I
it's
know what you
like,
mean.
yeah, and so I was like, oh, okay. I mean, the closest thing I got to was like the Universalist church type of thing, but it's like I wasn't still quite there.
You didn't choose heliocentrism, did you?
Heliocentrism chose me.
Oh,
And also, which this is gonna be interesting with you, Flat Earth, because I don't. I assume everyone here came from the globe Earth model. Right? We're indoctrinated. We we just didn't really look into it, so we believed that the Earth was round, a globe, right? At least for
Right.
me.
Yep.
Arwen, Flat Earth.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of
with
that.
me, the only real reference I've always had kind of a split off with the world of the TV and the world out here, and it always felt very distinctly different. But yeah, in the world of the TV, the globe is real, and yeah, I think about that world a lot, and it was always, yeah, of course the globe, but in the real world, it's kind of different. I don't know. I've always had,
Some reservations or something.
well, I've never seen any actual visual real thing that would suggest to me that it's a globe and not just a bent window.
Yeah.
Because I look through that really quickly. I can really see instantly if there's some kind of deviation due to lensing, or so that never caught that. Yeah, that never worked on me.
Yeah.
Just look through the window. You can see the globe.
And
No.
so, Flat Earth, were you always a flat earther, or did you come from
No,
globe Earth?
no, of course not. Of course not. I 3 years ago, basically the Trump election is what woke me up because it divided my wife and I, and I wasn't sure why that was happening. Whenever I agreed with Donald Trump, my wife would
Oh.
get obviously frustrated with me. You know, even though I wasn't agreeing with him, I was just saying what he was saying, you know.
Yeah.
And so I started looking on YouTube to see if everybody is getting this division, and I just fell into the rabbit hole, and that's how I ended up on Flat Earth, you know. And I 3 years ago, I didn't even have a YouTube account. I still don't have a Facebook or Twitter or any of this stuff. So I fell into it pretty hard.
Yeah.
And you know, when I got into Flat Earth, I started to believe in a creator. I was like, well, there must be a creator. And then, you know, I started to feel too overly sensitive about that, and I was like, you know what, that's too much. That's BS. It's like they're trying to suck me in completely, you know.
Yeah.
And that's what I've come with Flat Earth. I feel like creationists are trying to hijack the Flat Earth belief.
Don't worry, Flat Earth. Give it another year, and we'll get you praying in a church on your.
I want to get.
Okay.
We'll get you.
I want to get back to you on that later, Flat Earth. But so
Okay.
for me, yeah, I came from globe Earth too.
That was a joke.
Now after it's more of a. I looked into globe Earth. I didn't really look into flat Earth. I just looked into globe Earth, and it's like, nah, this doesn't add up anymore. It's like all I do when I investigate stuff is I look into the official narrative. If the official narrative doesn't hold up, well, what else could it be? But we're never going to really find out. So I approach the same thing with flat Earth. But now that I know, I looked into evolution, Big Bang Theory, globe Earth, the entire model. It same effect. I looked into revisiting all the religions out there, the spirituality aspect, and that's where I've kind of just been kind of at. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm atheist. I don't think just like as an agnostic, I don't think that everything came from nothing or whatever. I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be asked with creationism, with gods and deities and things like that. But you know, it's still an ongoing thing, which I don't know if I'll ever find the answer to. But like Arwen and Paul, did it make you revisit the entire, like, how were you before religiously or spiritually before when you were globe earther, and then once you realized, hey, it's not like they're saying it is, so did you dive back into the spiritual religious aspect, and what was your takeaway?
Can I go?
Yeah,
Paul,
go
you want to go first?
whatever.
No, well, it's okay. It didn't matter. I mean, I guess for me, it kind of strengthened it. My religious faith, it actually made it stronger. It didn't cause me to undermine it. It actually, a lot of biblical text seems to reflect the flat Earth model in a lot of ways. So, or I know the model is a bad term in the Nathan Hangout, but it seems to the Bible seems to reflect that there seems to be a dome or something containing this world. So to me, it actually strengthened it and caused me to reevaluate. It really just what it did on that side is it made me reevaluate what the Scripture's teaching, in a different way. So it didn't undermine it at all. It strengthened it in a lot of ways for me.
But it
I'll let
divided you from your church, Paul?
The flat Earth did because the way it's like everything. We filter the world through our previous lens, and a lot of Christians filter the Bible through the heliocentric lens, and when you realize that you're doing that and you have to step back and reevaluate, you begin to say, okay, there's a lot more here than you realize. When you realize that the only argument most Christians have for the Bible saying is heliocentrism is that one verse in Isaiah saying to circle the earth, but then you realize the Bible also talks about immovable, unmoving, set on pillars. You go, well, there's a lot more.
Of creation.
What's that?
Creation.
Yeah, a lot of Christians believe in creation, but
But the days of creation, how it is described there, is also very telling, I think.
Well, and that's another question that's within the Christian community, which actually gets back to the 6-day creation. Actually gets back to the flat Earth model, because there's a debate even within Christianity saying that those 6 days of creation were long periods of time. Each event may have taken thousands or millions of years. Each event, each day, right? To get to
I
the
personally
point.
agree with that. By the way, I think that certain periods could have been longer. It could be like an eon, a day as 1,000 years, perhaps. But
the text.
One thing, like when you mentioned the Bible saying a circle of the earth, that doesn't necessarily mean globe or ball. So.
Oh, I agree. It's circles. My plates are circle, and they're flat.
A circle could also be a tube. It could also be a loop. A circle. How do you translate a looping system? Oh, as a circle. So, just saying.
I understand. I mean, there's other scriptures you kind of got to add on to it to kind of get them. You start to see a picture. But anyway, back to the 6-day creation thing, though. There's a key phrase in each biblical text that says that it's actually 24 hours. It literally says evening and morning. It doesn't say, long periods of time. That key phrase in that text says it's a literal 24-hour period, because you can't have evening and morning in over thousands of years, or millions of years. So that's, to me, the biblical text in 6 literal days.
But hold on, weren't like the sun and the stars put in last, basically?
Yeah, there was light. The light was first, and then the sun, moon, and stars came in later.
Right, and he ended up putting the disco ball in, basically.
Does it mention when the firmament was placed?
That was one of the first things he made. It was like the first or second verse. The first thing he made,
the waters with the waters, and
then
separate
put
the
a
waters.
firmament in there.
Yep.
And then he started to work on the actual land and animals.
The sea and the animals, and then the stars. Even the stars came. I think the stars and the sun and moon came in after the plants.
Well, wasn't it technically the day and the night first, and then afterward, in a separate period, the heavenly bodies and the stars and all that? Because that always stood out to me, that it was the day and the night. No sun or moon. No, the day and the night. Separated.
Right. Well, there was darkness first, and then there was light. God created. He said, "Let there be light." That was the first thing God created in the biblical text. So, and then he said, "Then let there be a firmament to separate the waters above from the waters below." And then he says, "Let the dry ground appear." And then let vegetation, and then let the animals, and then I think the sun and the stars. I can actually pull it up here, I guess, just to get it here. Hang on.
Right. Yeah,
So-
but I
But,
always found the days of creation very fascinating as it's a very set mythos. It's very specific. It's always been so specific.
was it mentioned that the waters were created, or it was just there?
No,
And
they were there. So many, yeah.
that's something that I actually asked that to Christians once. I would say the primordial waters were in existence before they didn't put anywhere in Scripture that I can find that God created the waters. They were
You're
there.
breaking up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you're breaking
Oh,
up.
I'm
Paul.
breaking up?
Yeah.
I'm doing my Bluetooth. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Might be because it's wiggling around because I'm moving around.
Oddly enough,
Yeah.
you sounded like you were in water.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you, I'm sorry. If you read let me see. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void. The darkness was over upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Actually, guys, hang on. My wife doesn't have to talk amongst yourselves. My wife's calling me.
Sure. While we're waiting, we'll circle back to you. What I want to ask you is, Flat Earth, is do you have a formulation of creation of where we are? Whether it's like a Big Bang theory, or maybe we're in a matrix, or a whatever simulation. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think everything has always been here, and it's just everything is in a constant cycle of biogeochemical cycles that just keep repeating. And I think Arwen has like a version of this, except he puts a creator at the end of it. Is that right, Arwen?
Well,
Because when I talk about it, a lot of things you say resonate with me. That's why I'm asking that.
well, a creator, it's almost the word itself almost personifies it. And I try to do away with that because I think that the creator is basically the overdimensional manifestation of us all, or rather, we are the lower dimensional manifestation of the creator. So it's not a person here, but we are all part of it. We are the creation, and it is the creator. It is the creator and creation. It's the Alpha and the Omega.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so on a local level, I think everything goes through this entropic process and the laws of thermodynamics apply. But once you go out of that structure, which would be the sun and things that we can't understand, I think those have the potential of having been here forever and ever, even though we can't accept that something can't have a beginning or an end. It seems to me like the sun has done what it's doing forever and ever, but I can be disproven. I'm open to it.
But there's no way to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And water, I mean, you can change the constitution of water, but eventually it'll come back. Everything is the same way. You know?
Well, because of the specific pressures of the overall pressure system, if that would change, then the way water functions would also change very much. Lower pressure tends to make water evaporate, for example.
Yeah, but like all the elements, was it carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, they all go through this cyclical process, and they seem to start over and over again, you know?
So
that's a part of creation. That's a part of the design. It is kind of like a antecedent for life, or the bottom. It's the foreform. I think that life and all these chemical reactions, all of these things are naturally arranged naturally arranged according to the pattern of creation to be able to let these things come into being, or and sustain themselves to have a long-lasting cyclical contained system.
I love that.
Paul wanted to say
love
something.
that.
Oh, that's okay. I mean, we can go back to Genesis, or we can continue this conversation. I said this before to Flat Earther. I've said it before on Nathan Oakley's channel, or said on the show before. You can't equate how things operate with how things are made, because it's different how things function than how they were created. Like how cars made and manufactured in an auto plant is different than maybe how you maintain it, how you operate it. You know what I mean? So I think, and something else, I don't think the creation event cannot be proven scientifically. So because you can't go back in time, you're looking at it in a sense from a forensic perspective.
No,
What?
but you don't have to. You don't have to. You just have to prove that things are created, and then a natural antecedent to things being created is naturally a creator. Whatever
No, I
that
agree.
may be.
No, I agree with you there. I'm just saying, but you're inferring, so it's an inference. But you can't. I'm trying to say you can't apply the scientific method specifically to a creation event. You know, that's why even Flat Earther, everything he's saying is just a pure speculation. You know, because you can't.
Antecedent. A creator has an antecedent of a creator. That's not that's
I
wrong.
agree. I agree with
law.
you. I agree with you. I mean, it's the antecedent, but it still can't be proven scientifically.
Well,
Again, God can't.
No, but it is kind of a creation cannot have come into being naturally.
We wouldn't apply that to the scientific method. We could apply that philosophically.
That's what I would say. More, you're applying it philosophically and logically and inferring. Go ahead.
What I want to know is, what are your guys' thoughts? Because a lot of people focus on the aftermath, what happens when we die. But if we have a soul or a God essence or whatever it is, what were we before we were born? Where was our consciousness or God essence, our soul? How did it manifest into us?
I'll start first because mine is easy.
Sure.
I think we just come from everything else cyclical, and we go back into the soil and we become worm food, as somebody else has said.
That's just our matter. That's only our matter. Our spirit.
Yeah, I don't think there is anything else. I don't think there is anything else. But yeah, go ahead.
Oh, really?
Oh, and as the atheist, he has to go. That's his logical conclusion.
So you have
I just
no
don't
spirit.
feel it. I don't
just
feel it, and that's what makes
incidental
me an
illusion for you to have a consciousness. It's just a side effect of your chemicals in your brain, right?
Yes, electrical.
Just one giant consistent hallucination.
Learned experiences that develop who I eventually become, right? It doesn't have to be.
But you're talking about I now. You're moving beyond just material logic there, because you're assuming you are an identity.
Well, he can't make any truth claims. He can't make any truth claims because everything that all he can appeal to is chemical reactions, forces acting upon forces. So even any statement he makes is just his chemical processes in his brain. There's no true statements that he can't make that statement. Only a conscious being can make that kind of statement, can make any kind of statement that's beyond matter, beyond physical.
That was my point, exactly. But what I think, personally, is that beyond I think that the body is kind of like a receiver, and the spirit and the consciousness are more in the electric spectrum. As people have auras, have fields surrounding them, and you can even sense somebody's presence when they approach you, that kind of thing. I think that much of our spirit is basically, it radiates out as energy that is produced naturally in the body. And the body itself, and especially the nervous system, is basically a receiver or a database rather to reflect upon.
So,
well, I mean, I was thinking, well, I think I hear what you're saying, but I said this to I think Zender off one of the shows. If our spirit is immaterial, which means it can be measured, touched, tasted, measured of any way, which falls under the same. Hang on,
can be measured kind of as electrical.
Let Paul go, and then you can go.
Let me finish my thought. You didn't even let me get out.
I'm used to the
It's okay. I think our spirit would fall in the same category as information in general, or logic in general, which means that all that's immaterial. You can't quantify it. You see it as the evidence of it is there, but it can't be quantified in one sense of the word. I think our spirit falls in that same category. I don't think it can be quantified or but it's the evidence of it is there. I think the mind is not the molecule and the neurons in my head. The mind is separate from that. But through the mind, through the brain, through the matter in my brain, I can communicate through the world from my mind. Like everything I'm saying really is like the concepts I'm portraying are immaterial, but it's being carried through through the neurons in my brain, my vocal cords, to the words that's coming out of my mouth. Those are just means to carry that information. I've actually thought the spirit could be in some ways information. And it's funny how, if you think about from the biblical side of things, Jesus is considered the Word made flesh. I thought there's almost like that's what is a word? It's information being carried. And in the biblical record that was reading earlier, it says God spoke, and the world came into being. There's information that God says, "Let there be light." He imputed the information in the world, and it came into being. You understand what I'm driving at?
Yeah, but it wasn't a
Yes,
thought. It
interesting.
wasn't a writing. It was a word. I think that it's auditory. It emphasizes sound above all other elements.
But the word carries information. The information is what's immaterial.
Yeah, but there's other things that also carry information that are not words, like writing or thoughts.
Well, they're mediums by which the information is carried. My words are the medium by which the information is carried. A word on a paper is the medium by which the information. I know, right? We're not disagreeing. We're agreeing.
No,
but the information is immaterial.
What I'm trying to say is that I think that the word aspect is very specifically tied in, not only into information, which is definitely there, of course, the pattern of creation itself, but into auditory, into sound, like cymatics related thing, and the energy of sound, what it does, vibration. Vibration is a core element of all molecular existence, basically.
If you're getting to how the word or how the information interacts in the world, I can kind of understand what you're saying. Our words have impact on people.
That as well, yes.
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. So, like my words are having impact on you guys. Your words have impact on me. Our negative words have impact negatively. Our positive words have impact, and we could go on and on about that.
Right.
But that doesn't mean. But it's it's the information that's doing the work, so to speak. Just like the spirit is what's doing the work inside me. It's just my body is what's revealing what's going inside my spirit or inside my soul or my mind.
Right. No. Yeah, there's the mood communication and the actual informational content.
Right.
And
I want to ask things to Paul, then to you, Arwen. All right. So can you not
can barely hear you.
Yes, I can barely hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Better?
Very low volume.
Yeah.
How about now?
Yeah, better.
Okay.
Better.
Very nice.
Paul, first, there's a lot to ask. Okay, Paul's out of the picture. So, okay, Arwen, I'll get back to Paul later. What do you think? Where we came from before we're physically manifested, born into this world?
We're with God. We're in the highest dimension as part of it.
So is it choice to get into who we are now, or was it randomly selected? How was that done?
Yes, it is choice, but there may be a more complex pattern in the sense that there may be several cycles you go through in one go, as it were. And so you may have several lives in your go. And when you start it, you respond from God. Then you decide the path you take, overseeing time and all things as with God. And you go. And then you reduce in dimension. So forget everything and go on your soul's path throughout the ages.
So is our path predetermined, or do we have our own choice in it?
Timey-wimey, I don't know. Could be. I think it is probably preset, but I don't think it's not really relevant, because if you're with the creator itself, then you know everything. You know what the creator knows. You may not be a designer, but you know it.
What's the purpose of us not remembering or knowing when we're here?
Well, that's the challenge. If you already know everything, what's there to learn?
But if we're attached to the essence of God, I mean, and if he's all knowing of the predetermined path that's going to be, is what's the point of being of just suppressing what that you can't suppress? It's like a self amnesia.
What's the
I guess.
purpose? The purpose is to grow and to experience, to actually learn from nothing and grow back.
All right, we'll get to that
Because
later.
if you already know
Sure.
everything and you already got everything, then there is nothing left for you.
All right, we'll get that back to that later. Paul, so what were we before? How did we get to be conscious with our soul, our spirit?
Ultimately, I have no actually idea. I'm just going to be
You're-
straight up.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh,
Sound sucks.
is that better? No, yeah, it's maybe same. Better. Is that better?
It's still bad.
Okay, I don't know what to do. I can get my other headset. Is that any better?
That's a little bit better, yeah.
Seems okay.
Okay. Try not to move very much. Honestly, I don't know what happened before. I don't know. I mean, I go from the scripture. The Bible says that created you in your mother's womb. So everything is there. So the only way I could say that we might have pre-existed, and we might have pre-existed in the mind of God, in that sense of the word, because He knew what He was going to do. So I maybe existed in that sense of the word a lot. And actually, the Bible does say that He knew you before He created you. I disagree. I wanted to say that we are God, because I think God has no need of anything, and that's part of the presupposition for creation.
No, but I don't mean it like that. You're just a fragment of Him.
Hang on.
Paul, finish. Sorry.
I'll let you finish. Yeah, I'll let you talk. Let me finish. And so, God knows everything. So His knowledge is expanding. I believe He knows everything that is, everything that could be, and everything that will be. And so there's no need for Him to experience something if He already knows it. And I guess you could, if we get into what maybe Swastika might be saying, God needs to experience something, but I don't know if I agree with that. I think God created man and created this world just because He wanted to. It's just a pure want on His part. There's no need for nothing that He wants to experience, nothing He wants to do. He just did, and there's no presupposition beyond that. He longs to have a relationship with us, and I think you see that throughout Scripture. So, but the longing isn't a need that He has; He just wants it. So I could see where the waters get muddy in that arena, and when you say Alpha and Omega, then I think God is the beginning of all things and the end of all things. That's basically what the Greek word is attributing to. It doesn't mean He is all things. He's in control of all things. He's in contact with all things. He's present everywhere at once, but that doesn't mean He is everything.
He's designer of all things.
I agree. He is a designer, but He's separate from His creation. He's separate.
Okay.
My biggest.
If you want to see it like that, I see He is in everything. Literally, He designed it. He is entangled with it. I don't know. It seems like a personification to say no. He is actually a separate being. I don't know. That just seems a personification to me. Really.
Yeah. Well, my question about Christianity is Jesus and God is, if God's going to be the judge of us after, what was the point of Jesus in saving us? I mean, is it a blanket statement He saves everyone no matter what, or only the ones that believe in Him? But if we're all going to be judged in the first place, why even do that?
This asks the question, what do you judge for?
Mm-hmm.
What would you be judged for? Do you hear me? Do you understand? Do you hear me? So I'm actually asking the question. You're going to be judged for something. Like when you go to a judge at the traffic court, what are you being judged for?
Any crimes that you've committed.
Okay. Right. So you're really, so what you're being saved from is something that you've done. You've been judged for something that you've done. That's why I believe in free will, because we have the ability to choose to do good or choose to do bad. You're judged for what you've done bad.
But Jesus,
and no good that you, go ahead.
But Jesus Christ was, say, 2,000 years ago. But so people who haven't been born yet, but the idea is that Jesus Christ saved all of us from sin, even the ones who come forth later. But there's stipulation depending on the denomination that you're associated with within Christianity. For example, the Baptists. Basically, you just have to be baptized, and therefore you're accepted, and your sins are forgiven, even the ones that you do, all the sins that you incur after your baptism. Same thing with Catholicism. As long as you repent, you're good. But at the end of your life, if you repented for all your sins, you won't be judged. You're already forgiven before you enter the kingdom of heaven, etc. So.
Well, I mean, obviously I'm not Baptist, so I can only tell you how I see it. Just let me see if I can rewind. Jesus paid the price for all sin for all mankind, for any potential sin, any past sin, from the beginning of creation to the future to the end of creation. He paid the price for it all. Now the question is, it's like me. I have a bank account. Let's say you're in debt. You've incurred this massive amount of debt. And I come to you and say, Ebon, I have all this money to your access, and say, I'll pay any debt that you owe. The only thing I would ask is if I pay, I'll pay this debt for you, but all I ask is from this point on to be more like me. I'm not going to impute. As long as you're working towards that goal of being more like me, But first of all, you've got to come over here and take care of this debt that you've imputed against me. But I've also got the money to take care of it. Like the Bible is very clear. It says, for the wages of sin is death, right? So if you sin against God, you've committed a sin. You've sinned. Now, no matter what you do, you can't wipe out that sin. You could do everything good from the rest of your life, but you still got that one little sin against you.
But isn't that
what Jesus says? Well, wait a minute. Jesus said, "I'll come and take care of that sin, so it's not imputed against you." But you've got to go have access to that. That's what they say. What faith comes in. They say, "Well, I believe that Jesus paid the price for that sin." Does that make sense? And it's not baptism doesn't save you. This is my worldview. Baptism doesn't save you. Going to church doesn't save you. Even doing all good things won't save you. It won't. So the only way that you can you got to get rid of that debt. You got to get rid of that sin. And only Jesus can wipe that sin away and take care of it. Does that make sense?
Okay. In some ways, I get it. I'm still confused on some parts.
That's okay. I try to make it simple. If you need to ask a question or clarifying question, go ahead.
So Jesus on Earth, I guess, I still don't get it. Is like, what was the purpose of Jesus if it's all going to be based off of your life after you live it, and you're going to be given that chance to get that slate wiped clean. But if that was the case in the first place, why have Jesus come and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter anymore"? Because
the price has to still be paid. Remember, the wages of sin is death.
Mm-hmm. So,
and the debt we owe against God is a godly debt. Which means it's a God level debt because you've sinned against the Creator. So in a way, when Jesus is the Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end, He's the Creator of all things. He was there at the beginning. So that makes Jesus God. So when He died, He paid the God level debt that needed to be paid. And all we have to do is say, "Hey, I've sinned against God. Please forgive me. Can you impute that your righteousness, your good unto me?" In a sense, you're getting Christ's righteousness by that. You're getting His. in a sense, when God looks at you, he doesn't see your sin, he sees Jesus and what Jesus did.
Okay,
But when the Father looks at Jesus.
So I'm reading Yuya Namoto. So basically, we have to make that choice in life for God to take our debt at that point, and then live the best we can with the doctrine of God.
Right. Yeah. You move. The problem most Christians teach, and that's what some Baptists I disagree with, is they say, well, you can get Christ's forgiveness, and then you can keep on doing whatever, you know. And I don't agree with that. I think I think the requirement that God would have is if I pay the price for you, you've got to start working to be the better person. And like you said before yourself, be more like Him, become more like Him. And the biblical theological term is called sanctification, which means you're becoming more like Him. You know, the goodness that Erwin says that we all should be striving for, that, you know, loving people, caring for others, taking care of the poor, you know, doing what's right, standing up for the truth, all that should be something we do more and more and more. Get into the bad thing, moving into the things that are good. But if the price, you could actually do one horrible thing, and do everything the rest of your life like that. But if that price hasn't been paid for that debt, it doesn't matter. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, I get it. It's an exchange in a way, but it's not a material exchange. It's more of a I can't think of the terminology right now.
It's a spiritual exchange.
Yeah,
that you could say
could be
that
simple. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I mean, in most Abrahamic religions, there is no reincarnation. So it's a one-off. We have one life, and that's it. Now, what's at the end, at the Omega part? What's the difference in having a tally of those who are saved and in the kingdom of God, or those who are not?
Well, you know, like what's the, you know, I mean, if I use what I see in the biblical understanding is, I mean, those that follow Christ and accept His payment, they will spend eternity with Him. And then if you don't accept that, you don't accept the price He paid, and you reject that, then there's only one place to go, you know. And I think we are eternal. I think we do at the moment of creation, we're eternal. The moment we're born, I think we have that's another communicable attribute that we have with God. He had no beginning, but we do, but we have no ending. Just the question is, where are you going to spend it? You're going to spend it up together with Him, or are you going to with His goodness, or are you going to spend it in judgment for what you've done against Him?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
In some ways. I mean, I've got more questions. I've always had more questions.
No, that's okay. You can do it later. I will say my wife will be showing up any time, and when she does, I've got to get ready to go to work, so I may have to jump off here.
Yeah.
As soon as she pulls in, I may have to jump off.
At most, I won't go longer than another half hour, because it's been about an hour and a half already. But I like this. Now, Flattened Earth, I wanted to ask you before I get back to you, Arwen, is there an end to the constant of the earthly cycle?
No, I don't think so. No, because I mean, the only thing that gets us to a higher entropic state is people, because we seem to have the. Here, wait, hold on.
I guess something's going on.
Okay.
All right. I guess while we're waiting, Arwen, what are your thoughts on? I guess you had a lot to you wanted to say when Paul was talking.
Me?
Yeah. Or did you want to?
No, not really. I was just agreeing.
Okay.
But yeah, walking with Christ and walking with God, that's also a matter of perspective, because you can take everything very literal and scriptural, or you can just recognize the frequency of it. And then you go into another concept, which I'm basically second or third handing in that sense, because I got it from Owen Benjamin. He talks about it as well, logos, the natural pattern which comes natural to our creation, following the natural pattern of your creation. And that is also like following Christ, doing it right. And that's what I think is the real thing. That's what really matters to me.
Yes.
And I do say, okay, yeah, I think Christ, he physically existed and he was amazing and he was probably right, but more on a technicality than on that it's such a unique, supreme event. Even I'm not too sure about that. I think he was just a guy that really, really got it.
All right. Flatner,
There,
go ahead.
there's a conflict.
Go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry.
Quickly, if you
Yes.
got something.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Sorry
Go ahead.
if I back up. I'll wait. The thing that the only
Your mic is very
You're robot.
Paul. Your mic is bad.
You heard this.
We can barely hear you, Paul.
Arwen says you're roboting.
Yeah,
Maybe turn your camera off, Paul.
Yeah, turn your camera off and just use your mic. I think that might be the problem.
No.
You're still broken.
Better. Let me just take the Bluetooth off. Do what?
It sounds a little bit better than with the camera on.
I still broke it. Is that better? No. Okay, let me do this.
Rain coming by as I do this. Can you hear me better now? I'm just using the mic on the.
Yeah,
it's
much better.
I'm just using. Have you heard of C.S. Lewis?
Yep. Writer of the Lion, the Witch, the and Wardrobe.
Yep, and he also wrote a book called Mere Christianity. In that book, actually, let me go shut the screen door real quick, and the train's going by.
Wow, same here. Trains going by.
Yeah, there's that. The train was going by, and I couldn't hear nothing. I didn't know if you could hear me.
I could still hear you.
Okay. He said that you've only got three options with Jesus. If you really read the biblical writings of who he is, either he's a liar, a lunatic, or Lord. Have you heard that before?
Actually, I've never heard that one.
Yeah, because he claimed to be equal with God. He claimed to be the only way to God, the Father, and he claimed to be Lord of all. So either a liar you wouldn't want to trust. If he's a lunatic, you're not going to follow a lunatic, or he's Lord. And I don't think you can just say he was a good teacher, because a good teacher wouldn't claim to be God of creation.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
Right. So what if he was correct? Because I am hearing an echo of
That's from
myself.
Paul.
I've got you here. I'll mute myself. Go ahead.
Right. So what if Christ was actually literally possessed by the Spirit of the Lord as he was saying this?
Well,
wouldn't he be correct?
Well, you're back to square one. Well, I mean, you have to treat him as Lord, because he claimed to be equal with God. He claimed to be God. He claimed to be the only way to God. So if that's the case, then either he's crazy saying that, but you're still back to square one. Even if I believe he had the Spirit of God in him. So in a sense, you're right. But that's still.
Well, there you go.
But you can't just equate him to be a good teacher. You have to, if he's right, then you have to go with
He
it.
wasn't constantly spamming to his students that I am the God, I am the God. He wasn't like telling them every day. Okay, it was a statement he made in a specific moment, right? Maybe a couple of times.
No, I agree with you. He didn't go around making it a point.
Right. So
there's a reason for that, but he still said it. That's my point. He still said it.
Right.
My I don't know. I don't want to call it theory. My assertion, my idea, or my story based off of different texts, maybe not commodity and things like that, is that humans weren't necessarily created, and I could go more into this, just like how we create AI. Well, if the artificial intelligence attributes gains a conscious soul, spirit, whatever, and wants to attribute a creator It's like who does it attribute to as the creator? Does it attribute the manufacturer of its hardware? Does it say, oh, our operating system is from Microsoft, so obviously Microsoft is our creator? Or does it attribute the founder of Microsoft, Bill Gates, as the creator of themselves? And the idea is that there's multiple aspects to what's been created, whether it's the earth, the waters, the firmament, the heavens, stars, the sun and the
Right.
moon, humans. And the Nag Hammadi creation story attributes that the highest, the most high, created the universe, world, whatever you want to call it, and that there's this the wife of God, the partner, whatever, the female essence, ended up having a child. It wanted to create something, but it created it without the consent or knowledge of the Most High. How that happens, like he doesn't know, is beyond me. But anyways, it creates it, and it's Yada Boa.
He secretly looked away.
Yeah. Name is Samuel, whatever it is, and then
She didn't swallow.
oh man.
Don't get smutty. Come on.
And it realized it was the only one that, because she cast it to Earth, and because she wanted to hide it from the Most High, her God. And so the what was born was powerful, and looked around and was like, hey, I'm the only one here, I must be God. And so this God created a lot of things, and who's to know what happened was the Most High God said, because once this Yada Boeth created more things to have it worship him and have its powers to create more things, he was just kind of like proud and saying, I am the only God, the Most High God, and there's none before me. And all of a sudden this form appeared. It was the form of a human, perfect representation of it, and saying, oh really, I don't think you're the Most High God, that would be me. And the thing is, all of his creations didn't recognize or couldn't see what was talking to Yada Boeth. And Yada Boeth was like, who are you, what's going on? It's like, and so there's this realization that he wasn't the first one, he wasn't the most powerful, he wasn't the original. And at any rate, it keeps on going with this weird creation story. But the thought is what, in order to just kind of, it's like he was starting to get really frustrated and annoyed that there was something out there that can appear before him, and saying he's more powerful, he's, and stuff like that. And so what Yadaboev does is he recreates that image, and that image was its form, which is humans. Just like, how like Christianity is God created humans, a man in the image of God. So it's the same thing. So he copied it. It's kind of going to be like I've got you, I showed you, I just created versions of you that are under my control. And then the mother spirit but she realized, hey, that's actually not how it goes, because you used that image that was created by the Most High. They actually have the essence of God in some way. And so or it has the potential. It doesn't really explain it. And so my interpretation is, when they created Jesus Christ, basically Jesus Christ is the manifestation of the Most High and was sent to humans. It doesn't specify why, but my idea is that Jesus Christ came to instill in us the essence of the Most High God, because we weren't created by him, we were created by Yadaboeth. But the thing is, Yadaboeth and his minions doesn't have that essence. So when we have this essence, we can grow and become part of God. That was the reasoning. So rather than the whole sin story, as far as the Christianity part, it's more of a we're given the chance to become a part of something bigger than how we were created in the first place. We were created as slaves, minions, or as spite to this Most High God. But Most High God saw what was being done, saying this, and so decided, no, we're gonna give these humans a spirit of me, and So that's kind of where I go. It's not a belief. I don't believe in it. I think I'm just trying to piece together what some of these stories that are out there are trying to actually convey. But who knows if that's true or not.
Well, let me give you a thought. Can you hear me okay? I'm trying to do something a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little low, but we hear you.
I've thought about this, and it seems like some of the things you say kind of would seem to line up a little bit. There's if you look at Jewish teaching from back, and there's a book you can read called Alfred Edersheim. He talks about the life and times of Jesus, and he goes back into when biblical times and how they understood things. One of the things the rabbis said and what they believed about God is every time God spoke, he created an angel to carry the word. And I thought, if I take that to a logical conclusion, there's even another passage where it was given to Moses, but it wasn't God that gave it; it was the angels that carried it to Moses. So I thought to myself, well, what if God is like the head architect or the head contractor on a project, and he's having these other people create the world itself? And I wondered if maybe the angels were kind of falls in that category. They're the ones that carried out the work of creation, but he's the one that actually created it. Now, when it comes to Jesus, the problem I have with what you're saying, I don't think Jesus was a created being. I think he's co-eternal and co-equal with God. He has the same attributes as God.
Yeah, I wasn't saying he was created. It was the Most High God manifesting himself as the most perfect human, and showing that there is something more powerful, and it's not this God that you guys that created you isn't really the Most High. There's something more. That's
no, I know what you're saying. I was trying to be clear. I guess make sure I'm being clear about it. And I think honestly, the more I think about it, if I build this to a biblical lens, if those 72 archons or angels or these sons of God, what if they're the one they've taken the biblical account or take the true story and twisted it? And so that's why there's elements of truth in it, but there's still that disconnect, that slight disconnect, so just something to think about. So my wife just walked in the door, and if I can, when I get out and about, if I can jump back on, I will. So
okay, I'll try to go on for 22 more minutes. What are your thoughts?
If I can get back, I can jump back on, I will.
Sure. Thanks, Paul.
See you.
Flat Earth, Erwin, what do you guys think?
It's very complicated.
Yeah.
But these things. Yeah, it's like the question: Are there demigods? Are there humanoid type creatures? Maybe they are our ancestors that are like super amazing, and they have powers and everything. Could those have been what inspired it all? Or is there I sometimes wonder, like the whole creation thing, is it more like an arcane approach? Is it just by using logic and the nature of crystals and everything, you just figure out it is structured in a specific way and must be kind of pre-designed somehow, and then if you have a designer there, it must be designed. So it's more conceptual, the approach, the creator as a conceptual thing. Well, if you're going to personify it like so many religions do, then you're going to go back and kind of wonder, were they really these beings? Or is that a mythology? Or is that some message actually hidden in the form of a mythological thing happening? There's so many ways you could go into, and I personally prefer to stick to the concept of creation more. And as for Jesus goes and everything, I just try to take him as the exemplary human being that was just magnificent. And whether he is unique, like a unique moment where God extra dimensionally impregnated that woman with a unique creation, or that he was just a soul specifically designated for that person, sent by God, I don't know. I don't know how that happened. They're so you can speculate wildly all over the place about it, and so many people do. But I try to keep it a little bit modest and down to earth, because when extremities goes, especially in things the unknown, that's when Lucifer takes over and starts to make you believe whatever is the most amazing to you, instead of trying to stay on track on what is real. So yeah, I try to keep it a bit basic.
So, flat Earth, with your atheistic approach, I know you don't dive into it too much, but what are your thoughts of just inanimate objects like rocks, dirt, things that don't seem to grow into anything, as opposed to like plant seeds, like embryo concept of the chicken or the egg? How does that all come to be? How does a small seed know how to grow into whatever plant or tree it's supposed to be?
Okay, ultimately my answer is going to be I don't know, and it goes the same for the flat Earth. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what we're on. But as far as rocks, I mean, I think we don't know if they're alive of sorts. Like if you believe in atoms, atoms are moving faster, and thus the rock is harder. Isn't that kind of how we're supposed to think of it?
The density of the
yeah, density is the density, and heat.
No, I mean, but everything keeping the rock together. It's a bunch of molecules, and they're basically like little solar systems, and they're all holding it together, right?
Or the molecular bond of solids is just the molecules themselves, attracting it so hard. There's just no maneuverability left. That's how it becomes
exactly.
solid.
Yeah, so in that essence, if you believed in that, I'm not saying I do, we don't know, but then it would be alive of sorts, right? Because we're the same way. We're the same constitution. We just have more water than, say, a rock. You know, but my point is that everything comes from everything else. So I do believe in an evolution of sorts, but not from a singularity. I just think everything keeps cycling, and it always has. So if I have to think of people, I think we are, as Arwen would say, us, not that he would say, but like a side effect of Earth, okay? So it seems to me like animals and all these things that don't have memory, long-term memory, are supposed to be here on Earth, but we are different in that we store our memories, thus we were able to make societies and things like that, and that's a problem for Earth, because I don't think Earth is designed for that. So we are sending Earth into a higher entropic state.
Hold on.
But we know other animals have memories, long-term memories. I mean, just think about dogs.
Plants have long-term memories, recordable.
Although, how they stipulate
not like
memories,
people.
I would say more like dogs. Like a dog could, like their owner is being gone for a couple years. The dog, when that owner comes back, that dog is excited. It has memory.
Yeah, right. And so actually that would lend credence to my idea of evolution, because if we are made with the memory of a dog and we're able to talk like a parrot can, and all these things come together to make people, where our thumbs are opposable, and so I think Earth took it too far with us. So now we are sending Earth into a higher entropic state. We're like a virus, like the Matrix says.
Do you?
Right?
Can I intervene for a second? Because how you summed it up. Sorry, man. I'm just that's just me. But how you summed it up kind of sounded like a design plan. Really.
What I'm asking,
summing up all the
flat
separate
Earth
things,
is do you equivocate the Earth as a entity, a singularity entity?
The entire Earth?
Yeah,
I guess, yeah. I mean, because we don't know what Earth is. We don't know how big it is. We could be on a realm. I mean, we don't know.
A giant turtle.
Would that mean does it have thoughts, emotions? Is it a conscious entity? Is it a more supreme thing? Like, how would you
No,
describe?
yeah, no. See, I don't think it has to be that complicated. Because if you take like a DNA strand, it starts off with a bunch of chemicals and then sugar that attracts all these chemicals to it, and carbon, right, which is like it attracts all different sorts of chemicals. So I think these things naturally happen. They happen as magnets happen. The attraction of magnets happen. Everything else is the same way. It just attracts itself to each other. So that's where I separate from people saying that things have to be designed. There would have to be an antecedent to a design. But I think everything just naturally forms by way of fractals or whatever, and then this just keeps growing and attaching, and everything just evolves from that.
That's pretty interesting, actually. But yeah, you'd have to actually prove. You know how much trouble the supposed scientist had even trying to make life on a micro scale from non-living material? They failed.
Yeah.
A lot.
Well, it would seem like some people think they failed, but it seems like they were able to make something out of primordial ooze, a single-celled simple organism. And I got this actually from Quantum Eraser.
What, really? Well, that must have happened.
No,
recently,
No, I mean, not that he would agree with that, but one of his sources, I was looking up all his sources because he's obviously full of shit. And I noticed from his sources that, yeah, it seems like they are capable of doing it, but you would need hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of years to accomplish this, What's up, Ben?
What? That's ridiculous. Either they've accomplished it or they have not. If you're saying you'd have to need all that, no, that means they haven't, because they haven't spent all that time. That's ridiculous. They didn't go back millions of years in time to do that experiment. No.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, I would say, Arwen, I would say I don't know, and I'm okay with that. But if Ebon is looking for an answer, then I can give him one that makes sense to me.
Sure.
And it just and that's the only thing I can come up with. And going back to spirituality and how you guys think we have a spirit, and we are intelligently designed. Well, I think we can get the same feeling from a video game that can track us, or a VR equipment that we put on. It gives us that feeling like it understands us, and like if it is a being. And I think that is the vibe that we get that confuses us from a spirit. We think it's a spirit, but a machine obviously doesn't have a spirit, but a machine can play you sound through paper speakers and a magnet, and
Yeah, but
so
it was all created.
So
it only in a video game can inspire us when it is designed properly by another human being. Because if it's just random shit,
but either way though, if the machine is sitting there playing a song, you get a feeling from the machine like a spirit, like an essence, even though it's just a machine and there's nothing there. And so that's what I'm saying, is that I think people are the same way. I don't think we have a spirit. We just get vibes from other people. Thus, we equivocate it with a spirit, when I think it's just impulses in the brain, electrical, memories.
I don't know. I disagree.
Our experience. Yeah, that's okay. I mean, if you were right, that would be great. That would be fine.
I think things like music carry essence, carry spirit, carry the spirit of the designer and of the intention. It carries a lot of spirit, and we reflect upon it if we're sensitive to it. So I don't know.
I mean, it does.
Computer game can have a lot of spirit.
It's weird because it's based off the recipient and the recipient's understanding. Like, I could say a word to you and someone else may not understand it. Now, of course, that's like different languages, but also we could use a word that you understand, but I could use different intonations and put different energy into it, so you have a different feeling attached to that specific word. Like if I just say, "Hey, Arwen," or Arwen, I'm saying the word, different intonation, different energy built into it, or Arwen. You know, you could feel it. You can interpret it in a different way. It's the same word.
Yeah.
So it's but the thing is, you also have to be able to understand the different. You have to, I don't know, in some ways learn the differences between it, and I don't know if if the different feelings attached to it are learned. It can be known without having that learned.
Yes, it is. It's cultural, a lot. So, for example,
I don't know.
oh yeah.
I mean, I have kids, you know, and from when they were 6 months old, if I were to go boo and scare them, they would cry. It was a natural instinct that wasn't learned. You know, they were scared of whatever I was trying to portray. So I think some things are learned, but no, not everything. I think some things are just natural. To which goes back to what you were saying to Paul about what were you guys talking about? Having naturally having these instincts, right, of being bad, doing bad things or good things.
Mm-hmm. But I think those without but I attribute it differently. I think it's just violence is doing something harmful or initiating the action to it, and then the person who's the recipient of it determines whether that was violent or not, whether they like it or not, whether they would want that done to them or not. And then behavior in that aspect is when they do the same thing to someone else is like, would you want me to do that to you? And they go, no. Then you would just say to the child and say, well, you probably shouldn't do it, right? You don't want people doing it to you. And it's a pretty easy concept. That's kind of what Jesus instilled with his teachings, and that's pretty wise.
Confucius also.
Ben. Hi, welcome, Ben.
Hello.
And we're on this topic, and you seem to have wanted to talk about it before. I'm gonna be live. Let's do 7 more minutes, and then I'm gonna end the stream. But we'll finalize it with you, Ben. What are your thoughts?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't tuned into everything, so I don't want to.
No, that's fine. What are your thoughts on God? If we're instilled with spirit or souls or God essence, what happened before we came into this life? What's going to happen after we leave? Just your entire thoughts, I guess.
Well, the Romans and stuff wanted to say that we were like similar to God because we had reason. So I don't know. In that shared property of reason, I think it's a very important thing. But maybe it's not everything. Maybe they overstated that or something. But it seems like when I was hearing the flattened Earth talk, like he was trying to say that people like think of themselves too much, and like I feel like I wanted to say that there's a difference between people being like self-important to themselves, and then to people thinking that the human species is too great. Like those are like exclusive things, or not mutually exclusive, or whatever. But they're just like those are different, separate things actually. So it's like maybe it's possible for humanity to be actually great, actually brilliant, like with music and like with whatever. Some good cases and examples, but then also at the same time for people like widespread mass scale to be like thinking of themselves too much, too self-centeredly, like too self-importance or something.
Yeah, like what part do you want to overemphasize, overgeneralize?
Yeah, but
every culture, every group has good parts and bad parts unique to them in whatever percentage divided every group.
Well, I mean, like Wendell Berry, Buckminster Fuller was actually Buckminster Fuller is the guy that said that that we have to be like through our science and stuff we should accurately assess things, and then like through that science and stuff we basically have a service that we perform for nature, kind of like the bees and stuff. Like through knowing things accurately and exploring things and having integrity in our, in our estimations of things in like science and stuff, that we have actually a important purpose here on Earth, and that we're like perform a service for it. And if you want to hear more about it, like you can listen to his like conversations, like a 3-hour conversation where he talks about it. And then but and I think we are kind of like that. We are these little storage packs for energy. You guys may have already talked about that a little bit, I don't know, at some point or anything, but we are these in of nature. And I think that was a cool point about the how we're like have these like long memories. I was thinking about culturally and historically memory, but traditions.
That's interesting.
But yeah, maybe we are like kind of like the bees or something that we can go spread. We definitely are responsible for spreading all sorts of species all around this earth. Like we definitely, absolutely, as a species, like changed up a lot of things. We all have our independent minds to think and create and want to do this or that, see this or that, and do this or that. So
I think what's amazing to me, and I don't know how to attribute it to it, because it's just a frame of mind. For example, we learn a specific medium for communication. So we're speaking English. I assume we can all read English words, and then we go to a text that was written, just any book, any writing, say centuries ago. The person who wrote it's dead. Yet when we read it, we can formulate the thoughts that were created during the author who wrote that piece. And so nothing is happening. There's nothing being sent. There's no vibrations. There's no light. There's no information traveled. It's just that two-dimensional written manuscript or the words that are written there. But we're formulating thoughts on it. We could read it aloud and make the visible thing, like the vibrations of those words. And that's an amazing thing, because nothing is going on, like as far as particle interactions or frequencies or vibrations or anything like that. It's just we see something visible and we're interpreting it, and that's just an amazing thing. And I think that's just an interesting way to just think about things, as nothing is occurring, nothing that we can measure, yet that's occurring. That's happening to us right now. It's something that's no longer around, that can't convey its thoughts.
There are people that go pay $200 a session to hear some speaker speak, like some motivational speaker that's going to tell you how to make money or blah blah blah. Hey, $500 a session, $800 to just go hear somebody speak. Nothing's really happening, just people speaking something.
But the thing about the written word is no one's speaking. Nothing is happening. We just know how to interpret it, but make something out of it. And I think that could be another topic all in itself. But that's how I'm gonna end it. Do you guys want anything last words before I end the live stream?
Yeah. Watch my Flat Earth Early Bird show, number 140, tomorrow, 2 p.m. Amsterdam time.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, maybe we can continue talking about, because it's a subject that we can go on forever and ever. But this was fun, awesome.
Thanks for joining me, you guys. And
I
appreciate the dialogue I heard.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for joining. And I usually do live streams. I usually do live streams at night. If I can, I'll try to do some live streams after Nathan Oakley, because sometimes we dive into stuff where, hey, we want to continue this talk. So
yeah, like today.
Yeah, like today. All right, thank you guys. I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Later, Owen.
Thanks, everyone in chat.